You felt like you were poisoned and you were dying, I guess is the most clear way to put it in words. And
It's 2:23 now, and we have a little before that, we have a 36-minute video.
okay.
So we call it Patty Converse.
Okay, perfect.
Someone says the testimony about you in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Absolutely, yes.
Okay, all right. Can you state your name, please?
Tricia Converse?
That's your full name?
Yes.
Okay. And can you tell me the extent of your educational background
Through high school.
here in Nevada?
No, Colorado.
Okay. So you graduated high school in Colorado?
Yes.
What's the name of the high school?
Boulder High.
And approximately when was that?
Graduated
Right.
79.
Did you work at a job in Nevada?
Where did I work? I worked at a print shop for a little bit.
Okay. Doing what in general?
Sales.
Okay. And after the print shop, where, if anywhere, did you work?
I was at quite a while. 2015, that's when I went to Real Water.
Okay, well, if you came here in 2000, started at the print shop
2001.
in 2001, and you went to Real Water in 2015, the print shop was the only job you had in that 14-year period? Okay. Okay, so before 2015, the only other job you had here in Nevada was at the print shop?
Correct.
Okay. All right, so the job in, Real Water job that was posted in Craigslist, was it for a specific position?
Yes, it was at the front desk, and from the front desk, I moved up within a month, I would say, to Director of Quality Control.
Okay, but the job that was being advertised in 2015 was to be?
At the front desk, receptionist.
Okay, so the ad in Craigslist was for a receptionist at Real Water?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And you felt like you had the training background to do that job?
Oh, yeah.
Had you ever been a receptionist before?
No, but definitely had a lot of people skills.
Okay, so prior to 2015, had you had any training with regards to how to make water, how to make food, anything of the sort?
No, they taught me. No, it was,
We'll get into what they taught you, but prior to 2015, no training whatsoever
No.
in food processing,
No.
water processing,
No.
quality assurance,
No.
you know, nothing whatsoever.
Nothing.
Any chemistry class?
No.
Any involvement with using testing equipment?
No.
Okay. Okay. So you went to Real Water, you became a receptionist in 2015, is that correct?
Yes.
Do you remember the month? Approximately.
I want to say it was around May or June because it wasn't like extremely hot yet.
Okay. And would that have been a facility at on Desert Inn?
Yes.
Now, when you got hired, you said you were hired to be the receptionist, and then a month later you became the director of quality
Control.
Control. Okay. And I assume you've never been the director of quality control before.
No.
Who was the director of quality control at the time you were the receptionist?
There was nobody.
Okay, back to when you were hired as receptionist. Was that an hourly position? You were paid hourly?
Yes.
Do you remember what the hourly rate was?
No, sorry.
And when you became the director of quality control, was that also an hourly position?
No, that was a salary. That was $800 a week.
Okay. Was that a raise over what you were making before?
Yes.
Okay. During what time period were you director of quality control?
Well, I was there till August of 17, I'm going to say. So
So it would have been,
almost 2 years, right?
okay, so if you became receptionist sometime
In 15,
in 2015.
Yeah.
And you became the director of quality control in May or June of 2015.
yes.
So you were director of quality control for sometime between May and June of 2015 to August
Yes.
2017.
Correct.
Now, in the Desert Inn plan, during the time period that you were the director of quality assurance, was there a room where concentrate was administered into the real water?
Yes.
What was that room called?
You know, I don't remember the name of it, but I do remember where it was located.
Okay, and can you tell me approximately how big that room was?
Sure. If you take from this end of that pillar all the way across, and it'd be this big.
Okay, so approximately 20 by 10 maybe?
That's about right.
All right. Now, and in this, was this 20 by 10 concentrate room, room where access was restricted?
Yes.
Okay, and who was the access restricted to?
I had to go in there because of the electrical cords that needed to be fixed, and that's why I was to go in there and to make sure that everything was picked up and clean. But when Blaine went in there, nobody was allowed. He would lock it up. Nobody's allowed in there.
Okay, and that'd be Blaine Jones,
Correct.
and he was the one that was mixing the concentrate?
Correct.
Okay. And I say concentrate, is that was the term that was used by the real water?
Yes, it is, sir.
Okay. And what did this stuff look like? What color was it?
I never saw it.
Okay, so you never saw the concentrate before it was added into the water?
No.
Okay. And do you know what the ingredients of the concentrate were?
No, sir.
At any time did you know the ingredients of the concentrate?
No.
Okay, so you as the director of quality control were never provided with a list of the materials that were being used to make the concentrate?
No.
Do you know how they were making the concentrate?
No.
All you know is Blaine went into a room and the concentrate came out.
Correct.
Okay.
There were big tanks that it would go into.
So basically they would make a tank full of concentrate, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and if I told you that these were titanium tubes used to make the concentrate, that'd be news to you?
Yeah.
So as far as you know, you've never actually seen these things?
No.
Okay, and you were the director of quality control.
Absolutely.
Did you know prior to today that they were using titanium tubes as part of the manufacturing process?
I did not know that.
Okay, so today is the first day you discovered this, correct?
Yes, sir. I've never seen these. Sorry, my glasses are dirty.
Now, directing your attention to the top left quadrant of the exhibit, you see that? You see how the tubes are arranged together and there's tubes coming out of the titanium tubes?
Yes.
Okay. And you see, again, you know how they made the water alkaline or non-alkaline? You know what process they used to? You don't know.
No.
Okay. Did you know whether or not they applied positive electric charge to these tubes, exhibit 25?
No, sir.
Okay. And I referenced them as titanium tubes. You didn't even know they were tubes, much less that they were supposedly titanium.
No.
Right? Okay. So basically, whatever was done in the concentrate room, you weren't privy to, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So with regards to your job as the director of quality control, you could not do any quality control in the concentrate room because you didn't know what was going on in there.
Exactly.
And you would agree with me that if there was a water processing plant and you were director of quality control and there were things going on in some room that you had no access to, you couldn't ensure the total integrity of the system.
Correct. I do know that. Now that you say that, I know it, but I didn't have that kind of background.
Okay. You didn't have the training to recognize that.
Correct.
Okay. Are you familiar with something known as HACCP?
No, sir.
Okay. And so if I told you HACCP meant Hazards Analysis Critical Control Point, that would be news to you?
Yes.
So you don't know how many steps, if any, there are in HAACP?
No, sir.
Okay. And since you don't even know the first step, right?
No.
All right.
Sorry.
And do you know the four types of food and safety hazards under an HACCP analysis?
No, sir.
Do you know how many critical control points there are under an HACCP analysis?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Now, if you take a look at Exhibit 18, that's the next in order there.
Okay.
This is an audit by a group called NSF International that claims to have visited the plant sometime in 2017. If you go to the very last page, you'll see your signature. Well, I should ask you, is that your signature on the very last page?
On the last page of this?
Mm-hmm.
No, sir. I don't sign like that.
Okay, it says audit contact, and then there's a signature there. That's not your signature?
No.
Okay, let me make sure we look at it. It looks kind of like a PNC, but that's not you.
No, I could sign and show you my signature.
Well, what do we have others? Okay.
Okay.
So you did not sign this document.
That doesn't look like my signature, sir.
Okay.
I don't recall signing it, but
Do you recall an entity, and they have the name of the person here, Cheryl Bischoff, it's on the first page,
under,
Bischoff. Do you recall them coming in and doing an inspection or audit of the plant sometime on March 2nd, 2017?
you know, there was people that came in to see the plant,
Okay.
but I don't remember the names.
Okay. Maybe they were from Michigan, perhaps?
I don't remember, no.
Okay. Now, directing your attention down to 2 on Exhibit 18. So, for the record, we're on page 3 of Exhibit 18, Section 3, which is labeled HACCP. Are you with me?
Page 18?
Right. No, it's Exhibit 18,
Got it?
page 3,
Okay,
and then down in the middle, Section number 2.
got it.
Okay. Has the persons responsible for the HACCP program completed a formal HACCP training? Question. Answer, there is no current staff that has completed formal HACCP training.
Yep,
And that's a true statement,
yes,
because you didn't have it,
no,
no one had it.
no.
Okay. In retrospect, that probably would have been a good thing to have.
I'm sure,
Did you say they were cheap?
absolutely.
All right. Okay, again, last page. That is not your signature, you're telling me.
Does not look like my signature, sir, but you know what? I can, like I said, I never put a line across the top like that, across the P, that's why. It's like, I just,
Okay.
I don't do that.
Any idea who signed this on your behalf?
I honestly, if you ask me, I think that somebody looked at my furniture, my signature and probably tried to do it. My guess.
Okay.
And that P doesn't even look like a P, that looks like a D to me.
With regards to this document, you have no memory of seeing this document that we have purchased through 18.
No, sir.
On the top it says, do employees assigned to conduct the test demonstrate competence to perform them? Answer, there are currently no written SOPs or training documents for how to perform various testing. Only required test parameters with frequencies are noted. Okay. Did I read that right?
Yes,
Okay. Is that a true statement that there were no written standard operating procedures or training documents for how to perform various testing?
correct.
Okay. Any changes made after this finding that you're aware of? Were you even made aware of this finding?
No,
No, you were not made aware of it.
no. I've never seen this.
So I'm correct, you were not made aware of these findings. Is that right?
That's right.
Did you notice anything unusual about any of the water that you drank?
Well, you couldn't-
Chemicals in it?
You couldn't drink it as soon as it got off the line. It had to sit for a while because you would get sick.
Okay, and when it came off the line, you couldn't drink it because why?
Because there was people that would get upset stomach and have loose stools and have to go to the bathroom. And they said it's because they drank the water right off the line. You're not supposed to drink it right off the line. You got to let it sit for at least 24 hours.
Okay, and was there a procedure where you were supposed to let the water sit for 24 hours?
That's what they always said, do not drink it off the line.
Who's they?
Blaine told us that, Brent told us that, they all said don't drink it off. Frank even told me don't ever drink it off the line.
So as your understanding, there was something in it that needed to
Sit for a while.
mature,
Yeah.
sit,
Yeah.
process. Do you know what that is?
No.
Do you know what hydrazine is?
No, sir.
And do you know whether or not hydrazine causes liver damage if you ingest it?
I'm sure it does.
Okay. Did you do any testing for the presence of hydrazine in the real water products?
No, sir.
Okay. Same question on concentrate. Did you do any testing on the concentrate?
No.
Okay. And we have in here testing by the FDA on real water concentrate, which let me show to you real quick. 28A.
Go to 28.
28A. There's actually two tests. There's 28A. There's 28 and there's 28A. So you see these are results of FDA testing on real water concentrate samples. And you see on the first paragraph, when you're reading on, hydrazine was identified. See that statement?
Yes.
And then directing attention to the next page, which is A, down in the middle, you'll see the concentration of hydrogen was determined to be 1.33. See where my finger is? Okay. Do you know whether or not 1.33 is a dangerous concentration for hydrogen?
No, sir.
Okay, because you've never heard of hydrogen.
Right.
Okay, assuming for the sake of argument that the FDA did find hydrogen in the real water concentrate, do you have any idea where the hydrogen came from?
No, sir.
Okay, and if someone had informed you that there was hydrogen in the real water product, would you, as quality control director, have investigated that?
I would have asked about it.
Okay. And by the way, before I forget, you said that some people, employees, drank real water off the line and they became sick.
Yes, like the guys that would work on the line,
Mm-hmm.
they drank it.
They became sick.
Yeah.
Did they have liver damage that you're aware of?
Not that I know of, sir.
Okay. And did real water?
Can I add something into there?
Sure.
What bothered me and when I became the director of quality control, I told the guys not to ever do that, is that they would give the water to the homeless people. And I said, you can't do that because then they would get sick.
So
I put a stop to it.
So they're giving water,
Off the line to the homeless
and
people.
homeless people will become sick.
Well, I don't know, but I just know if they're not supposed to drink it up and they got sick. When they get sick, where are they going to get help?
What did water that you knew was 1 liter that was going to a warehouse, then to a store, did you treat that differently than the 5 gallons of water?
No. Well, I wasn't there when they did the 5 gallons.
First of all, I assume all the customer alert forms were filed in one big place, right?
I would think so. I never saw them.
Okay, you're the director of quality assurance.
Right.
Who else would be responsible for that?
Well, they would have to go through their supervisor, which was the salespeople would be with Amy. And then whether Amy would give them to me to take care of them, that was up to her. She was in charge of the salespeople.
So you didn't necessarily see every complaint.
Exactly, because they would go through the salespeople.
And you didn't review the complaints that were filed in the complaint book?
No.
Okay. All right, D, we have a complaint about, quote, this is dated October 21st, 2013, an oily red substance inside the bottle. You see that one?
You're on which page?
I'm on B,
Okay, sorry.
first full paragraph there, oily red substance.
I am on B. I don't see
Okay,
that.
right here,
Oh, I see it. Sorry.
okay? So there were complaints you were aware of that they found oily substances in the bottles?
That was before my time.
Okay, but this was in the book that you could have reviewed if you wanted to.
I didn't see this.
I didn't ask you, so you could have seen
Okay.
it if you wanted to. Anybody could have. All right, well, there's plenty. You really have to get stuck in one. Okay, C, April 2nd, 2013. Free-form resin or oil from the manufacturing process. And there's complaints about that. Were you aware that there were complaints that there was some kind of oil in the bottles from the manufacturing process?
No, sir.
The date of this document.
At any time.
No, sir.
All right. D, we have a May 6, 2014 complaint about, quote, a strong chemical smell in the bottle with a TDS reading of 26, unquote. You aware of this complaint?
No, sir.
So this is the first time you've heard that there was a strong chemical smell associated with the real water.
Yes, sir.
All right. E, this is February 21st, 2014. Customer said she found a gasoline-like substance. Okay, did I read that right?
Mm-hmm.
You weren't aware of this complaint either.
No, sir.
All right. 1, December 1st, 2016. This was the time period that you were the Director of Quality Control, right?
What are you on? Okay.
December 1st, 2016, you were Director of Quality Control.
Yes.
My pets and I have been getting diarrhea from your water. It never happened with the smaller bottles. It is giving me a burning, sour feeling in my gut, and it said diarrhea.
Mhm.
Okay, is this a complaint you got?
Yes.
All right. And did you investigate this complaint?
I took it to blaming. We just said to offer them free water.
Okay, so when you received written complaints about your water causing someone an illness such as diarrhea, the solution was to send them free water.
Correct.
Okay, the solution was not to investigate as to whether there's a potential problem with the water.
Correct.
Okay? And in retrospect, do you think that was a good quality control procedure?
No, sir.
All right, Jay, we have a December 1st, 2016 complaint. Another upset stomach and gut complaint, diarrhea, and also dog problem. Okay? Do you have any recollection of this complaint?
No, sir.
You know how this was resolved?
No, sir.
Okay. But there was no investigation done as to what was the potential cause of this.
Correct.
Okay. All right, M is February 6, 2016. Water smelled foul and tasted like chemicals. Okay? At the time that this complaint came in, you were the Director of Quality Control, right?
Yes.
What was done to investigate this complaint?
I didn't get this.
You did not get this.
No, I don't remember seeing this.
Okay. All right. Flipping to the next page, where I see a number of emails with your name on them about this complaint.
Okay.
Does that refresh your recollection that you did get this?
Yeah.
And the solution was to offer Mr. Gelman more real water.
Correct.
So rather than investigate the potential problem, you offered him more real water.
Correct. That's what I was told to do.
I'm not suggesting it wasn't. So Mr. Jones told you to do that, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. And this is March 17, 2017 from someone named Susan Doran.
Okay.
And she complains, it's on the next page, quote, My family, my pets, and my 87-year-old visiting parents and I have been getting diarrhea from their water. We were all fine until today when we first switched from the regular brand to yours. She stopped buying in December after getting sick. She wrote you, didn't get a response. This is dated March 3rd, 2017. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And again, that's the time period you were the Director of Quality Control.
Sure.
Okay. How was this one resolved?
This is the same one here. I left her a message. I called and left a message. Again, sent an email, and I talked to her.
Let me ask it differently. Was there any investigation done on the manufacturing process
No,
as a result of this complaint?
No, sir.
Was there any investigation done on the manufacturing process at any time as a result of any kind?
Absolutely not.
Okay. We have thing dated March 6, 2017 under Costco Business Center on MLK. Okay. Quote, water had a bitter aftertaste for the case she purchased. Okay. Can you recall this complaint?
Yeah, that's my handwriting, sir.
Where's your handwriting?
But there it says we'll come in for 2 cases of water.
Okay. So again, the solution here was to give out more free water.
Correct.
Okay. No investigation done in the manufacturing process.
No, sir.
All right. August 1st, 2017. Quote, fishy smell and taste burned her throat. Okay. And were you still there at this time? I think you were, right? You're still there.
This is about the time
Okay.
I left.
You call this complaint?
No, sir.
Okay.
There were a lot of questions about the processes and standard operating procedures. Now, to be clear, you were there from 2015 to 2017, is that right?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Sorry.
At the Desert Inn facility.
Yes, sir. Ma'am.
It's okay. I've been called worse. So you're only able to testify as to what happened in 2015, 2016, and 2017 at Desert Inn.
Correct.
Okay. So in terms of what testing was done or what procedures were, all you know is when you were there, 2015 to 2017.
Yes.
Okay. So were you familiar with any of the standard operating procedures that were in place at the time?
Just what they told me, just what they showed me, and just what Blaine trained me to do.
Okay, then we'll talk about that. So what did they show you when you first got there? You said you only know what they showed you and what they... Okay. But in terms of the standard operating procedures, I'll show you just in your binder right there, if you turn to tab 12, for example.
Got it?
There's a procedure called incoming water testing and treatment. Do you see that?
Yes.
And this states that it was issued on October 29th, 2014. Do you see that?
Yes.
So was this a standard operating procedure that was in place when you arrived at Real Water in 2015?
Yes, because obviously it started on the 14th, so.
Now, you said that you had some training when you became the Director of Quality Control. Is that right?
Yes.
Can you describe that training?
Well, it was basically, they say you gotta read this book and follow that, and then how to do the testing, where you needed to be at, how often to do it, and to just make sure that they were more concerned about getting more trucks out per week to have production than they were about the testing. So, like at every Monday meeting, their concern was not about the testing, I can guarantee you that, or what the levels were. It was how many trucks did Shani and I get out.
You started your answer by saying one of the things you did for training was read, you said the book. What book are you talking about?
They would have they have these books that they had all of these sheets.
So you're pointing to the standard operating procedure.
Correct.
So they were all together in one book.
Oh no, they had like about 3 or 4 different books.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a lot.
And those were provided to you.
Yes.
Okay.
And Blaine would update those.
To your knowledge, while you were there, was the testing on the incoming water and the outgoing water actually done at the beginning and end of every shift?
I would do it in the beginning, in the morning, and then when the second shift manager would come in, then they would do it, and then before they would leave, they were supposed to do it.
If there were any deviations from what the water was supposed to read at, whether it be pH, ORP, TDS, how were those addressed?
They would actually, at the end of their shift, take one of the bottles off the line, and they would write on the bottle itself where the levels were. That's how the shift managers would do it.
So there was a retained sample,
Yeah,
and that was every shift?
yes.
Okay. And were those retained indefinitely?
I don't know how long they kept those in the warehouse.
Other than reading the book, what else did you do as part of your training?
I did a lot of what we needed to be as far as the cleaning room, how the products that they use for cleaning, which is the ZEP products, how all the labels have to be on there, how a lot of the safety precautions so nobody would get hurt. That was a big thing.
That brings up something else. You recall looking through some of the customer complaints, and there were some that predated you that mentioned it seemed like there was dirt in the water.
Yes,
And you said that your impression was that that came from the bottle, the blow molder itself.
correct.
How did you come to that conclusion?
Because they always had problems with that machine, always. And they always had things, and there was times that one of the managers would pick up the bottle and say, look, there's stuff in here. So I said, just throw that out.
Okay, what kinds of problems?
Like, what do you mean, what kind of problems?
You said they always had
like-
problems with the machine.
Yeah, the bottle, it would either not make the bottle right, or it was just disjointed, the cap part of it wasn't doing right, so they were just having problems with the mold.
Okay. Specific to the couple of complaints about dirt, do you know how they determined
That it got in there?
that the dirt that was being reported was from the machine? Do you know how they determined that?
I did.
Okay, how did you determine that? What did you do to come to that conclusion?
Just because where they would make the bottles, it was not a clean area. There was just dirty, and there was papers everywhere all the time. It just wasn't a clean area.
Okay, so that was the basis for concluding that if there's dirt, that's likely where it came from. It came from the machine?
I think so.
Okay. Did you do any type of testing or anything?
They had guys that would work on the machines. Had nothing to do with that.
What kind of documents were created during the production process? Were there logs, for example?
What I came up with, because of the problems we were having with the bottles, is that whoever was making the bottles, so I knew to detect a problem when we were having it, was in each bag, they all would go into a huge bag. I created to where you put a label and you date it and mark it that you were the operator that made those bottles.
Okay, so, sorry, back up. You say you put the bottles into a bag. You mean unfilled bottles?
Correct.
Okay, and so there was an individual who was operating the blow molder.
Correct.
Okay, and he or she, after molding the bottles, would put them in a bag?
Yes. There was a cart that was with a liner bag, and then once that was filled, they'd close it up, and I told them from there forward, label it so that we can detect where we're having the problem, who's making the bottles and not paying attention.
And when you say not paying attention, what do you think was happening?
The machine would be running, and they'd go out in the back and smoke and do whatever they want, and the machine would just be there, we're keeping an eye on it.
Okay. And what would happen as a result?
they would jam up, and then you gotta watch those kind of machines, because you don't know, one's gonna jam up and that plastic will go into another bottle, and it just breaks down, then we lose production time.
When you said you got customer complaints occasionally, they would come across your desk.
Yeah.
I noticed they were from various places in the country, all over. I saw one from Florida, I saw one from Oregon. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Okay. And so your understanding at the time was that Real Water was shipped all over the country?
Yes. I actually think that they were actually, Amazon was actually, is how they were getting it, was through Amazon.
So was that being shipped directly to
Because we had some cases that would go to them.
I understand, okay. Were there any, in terms of the production staff, the people actually making the bottles and making the water, were there any written training materials that you know of?
No. I would have to explain it to them, because a lot of them didn't speak English.
So one of your jobs was essentially explaining the production process to some of the people.
I speak fluent Spanish.
That's the end of the video.
Okay, council can come approach. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna take a 20-minute recess, come back at 3:15. During this recess, you're admonished not to talk or converse amongst yourselves or with anyone else on any subject connected with this trial. Do not read, watch, or listen to any report over commentary on the trial or any person connected with this trial by any medium of information, including without limitation to social media, text, newspapers, television, internet, radio. Do not visit the scene of events mentioned during the trial. Do not undertake any investigation. Do not do any posted communications on any social networking sites. Do not do any independent research, including internet searches. Do not report or express any opinion on any subject connected with the trial until the case is finally submitted to you. Back at 3:15.
Please rise for the jury.
Anything we need to discuss?
No, Your Honor.
Are we already here?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Your Honor.
Who's next?
The next witness will be Chris Wren.
Okay.
Please rise for the jury. Please be seated.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your service and for your patience. The plaintiffs ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
Your Honor, briefly, we have some stipulations on a few exhibits.
Okay.
Plaintiff's Exhibit 544, 549, 528, and 534.
That's right. Okay, exhibits 544, 549, 528, and 534 are agreed.
Thank you, Your Honor. And plaintiff's next witness will be Christopher Brian Wren.
Mr. B. Right this way, sir. Please remain standing, raise your right hand, face the court to be sworn in.
You do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please be seated, state and spell your first and last name for the record.
First name's Chris, last name's Wren, CHRISWREN.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, Chris. Would you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Yes, my name is Chris Brian Wren.
Where'd you grow up?
I was born in St. George because my family lived in Moapa, Nevada. It's about 45 miles north of Las Vegas. St. George is the closer or the nicer place that people out there like, go for treatment typically, at least back in the day. And so I grew up out in Moapa, Nevada.
And how did you meet your wife, Emily?
We both grew up in Moapa, and we both attended Moapa Valley High School. And we started dating in our junior year of high school.
Moapa is a small.
Yes, it's a very small little rural town outside of Nevada. It was mostly known for the Hidden Valley Dairy. Emily's grandfather actually worked at the dairy since the 40s, and there was a power plant there, and my father worked at the power plant, and that's why we moved there.
When did you first meet Emily?
We first met in 3rd grade. That was my first year of public schooling. I was homeschooled until 3rd grade.
When did you move to Las Vegas?
I moved to Las Vegas on the Monday after I graduated high school in the year of 2000.
Were you and Emily together at the time?
We were dating, yes. We were not married at the time. We were dating from our junior year on.
High school sweethearts?
Yes.
And when did you and Emily get married?
It was November 15th, 2008.
Almost stepped in that one.
Yeah, that was the year that always gets me, but the month and date I remember.
The jury has heard about little Chris. Do you and Emily have any other children?
Yes, little Chris is our second child. Our first child is Chloe. Wren. Chloe is now 10.
Shane, can you please put up exhibit 544? And is this a picture of Chloe and Chris?
Yes.
Approximately when was this picture taken?
Sometime in 2019, I believe.
And Shane, can you put up 549? Another picture of Chloe and Chris?
Yes.
I had to show this because I love her t-shirt. After high school, did you have any post-high school education?
I went to UNLV for a while, studied engineering and chemistry. I also went to community college in Nevada, several years of both, but didn't graduate.
What do you do for work?
Currently, I'm the Vice President of Operations for Planet 13 Holdings.
Tell the jury a little bit about your personal life. What kinds of things do you like to do in your spare time?
Mostly it's family at this point. Back when I was a kid, I had a lot of hobbies, off-roading, growing up in Moapa, bicycles. But, since having a family, it's mostly just hanging out with the family, taking the kids on rides, bicycles, playing around with the kids mostly.
When did you start drinking real water?
Me and Emily started drinking real water. Again, the exact year is a little fuzzy, but I know she worked at the Wren, and it was prior to 2011. I want to say, based on the fact that I learned here that they opened in 2008, sometime between 2008 and 2010, Emily started drinking real water and would be buying it and bringing it to the house, and I would also be drinking it.
What attracted your family to real water?
It's my understanding Emily saw it at yoga class. All the yogis had it. It was the craze, alkaline water, healthy. She's a very healthy person. We're a very healthy family. She saw the water. She said this water is good. The bottles looked cool, and it was available at most gas stations and Whole Foods and where we normally shop and get gas. And so it was very convenient to buy. And so she would pick it up, and we would buy cases, and then we started seeing it at Costco, we started seeing it at Whole Foods and buying cases, and then eventually learned that they had a home delivery program. She saw one of their vans driving around and came home and said, hey, we can stop buying cases. They have a home delivery service that we can sign up to now. So we did.
And were you receiving home delivery after the kids were born?
I believe before and after the kids were born, yes. Definitely while Chris was being born.
And did everyone in your family drink the real water?
It was mostly me, a lot of Emily, Chris for his bottles, and very seldom Chloe. Chloe was mostly drinking like Sprites or like these little, what they call like Pellegrinos, or like sparkling fruit, water, juice, kids things, the little juice boxes and stuff. She would have it occasionally in her mac and cheese or soup that her mom would do, but she wasn't a big water drinker. Like she's not the type of girl that goes and you don't see her filling up from the cooler or the RO tap. She's always drinking something else.
One of the pictures we looked at was your kids eating mac and cheese.
Yes.
Would you use the real water in your home to prepare foods like mac and cheese and other things you cook?
Yes. We used it to make all the food. Handheld bottle.
Did you drink a lot of real water?
Yes. We had a water cooler at the house. I even had one at work. I had like a Yeti, like a large, insulated thermos type deal to keep cold. I would drink a large thermos before bed every night. I would drink throughout the day. I would drink at work. A tremendous amount of water. Emily had, there was a pink thing back. I don't know if you've seen it, like a whole gallon. It's like a fake jug, the mini one. She didn't like drink a whole gallon a day, but she did own that product and drank a lot of water.
Throughout the time that you were drinking real water, did you ever have any illness or feel any gastrointestinal issues?
For a long time, actually. It's interesting to sit here and listen to some of these testimony and complaints from the previous years. When this event, the lawsuits concerning happened, none of the previous stuff was even in my, I still didn't know what was happening, but up for the years previous, I would have these weird gastrointestinal issues. I had scheduled a GI doctor. I went in, they have you eat stuff, and they radioactive stuff, and they check your stomach, and they check for this, and they check for that. I attributed every night I would have a very large thermos of water. I'd wake up a lot of mornings, and I would just be violently ill. I would puke, and I'd sit in the shower, a hot shower, and I didn't know what was going on. Thinking about it now, it's very silly, but you don't think water's killing you. So every morning, just, I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know what's wrong with me. I go to the doctor, and this went on for many, many years. Never hospitalized, but just weird, just stuff. You don't know what it is, and you think it's just, oh, you're getting old, or maybe it's something I had, or maybe being a kid catching up with you or something. So, yeah, a lot of weird gastrointestinal problems. I thought it might have been dairy allergies or this or that, changed my diet a lot. But yeah, a lot of weird stuff.
Let's go back in time to August 2020. Did you get sick on a different level at that time?
Yeah, that was sorry. It was the most sick I've ever been in my life, still to this day. It was the most intense thing I've ever dealt with, ever. And it wasn't like being sick. It's hard to explain this, but when you're sick, you feel an immune response. Like you feel like, oh, I have the flu, and my body's producing an immune response, and I have a fever, and I feel sick. This isn't that. This was, you felt like you were poisoned and you were dying, I guess is the most clear way to put it in words. And everything was blurry, you're kind of dizzy. The vomiting was at a level you've never seen. And just so I can stop a little bit, prior to getting the vomiting and the intense stuff, I just had, again, weird stuff. I was Googling symptoms, and it says maybe your liver needs cleansed. Maybe you have liver issues. So I went and bought some milk thistle, the GNC. Like, oh, maybe my liver's dirty, or whatever. So I took some of that, and then the vomiting started, and I had to call out of work. And again, I was vomiting. It was diarrhea, vomiting, dizzy, but it was a different sickness than I've ever felt before. So, okay, maybe it's a new virus. The COVID's going around, I don't know, whatever. So puking, and the only thing I was intaking while vomiting was real water. So you would vomit, I would fill up that thermos, that exact one we're talking about, I would drink it, 20 minutes, projectile vomit, drink, vomit for 2, 3, 4 days in a row. Called out of work, I'm not getting any better. And then I went to the ER because he vomited for 3 or 4 days. Something's weird, time to go to the doctor. So it's COVID, whatever, we go to the doctor, we'll deal with this, get the whole deal on, get in, they take my blood. Comes back and he says, you know, your liver enzymes are a little elevated, there's a lot of stuff going on. Here's some, I think it was, I forget the name of the drug, but it makes you not vomit.
Anti-nausea.
And it's an anti-nausea medication. Take this, go home. We'll see if you get better. If you get worse, anything bad happens, come back. So, okay, no problem. That was the ER at Aliante, a little, it's not a quick care, but it's a Mountain View ER offsite thing. They're quick and they're close to the house, so that's why I went there.
Did they ask you to follow up with your primary care doctor?
I don't recall if he asked me to follow up. I know that he said, you know, hey, your liver enzymes are a little messed up. You know, you should look at this. Go home. If you get any worse, come back.
And then what happened?
I went home and I continued to drink real water, continued to vomit, continued to get progressively worse in terms of mental state, ability to really process things and you know, hold it together. I think it was a Friday or Saturday, and Emily went to yoga, and then she came back in the morning, and I think I was on the couch in my underwear with a puke bucket and some water, and I was just like laying there and just gray, just, you know, just kind of out of it. And I'll remember she walked in the door and she looked at me and she goes, "You need to go to the hospital now. Like right now, you're going to the hospital. I don't care what you say." It's okay, I'll go. Probably shouldn't have drove, but our son Chris has autism, and she was home taking care of him. He was still like 1.5 or whatever. So I got in the car, truck, puke bucket, and drove to the ER at Aliante.
Are you continuing to vomit during the drive?
Yes.
And you get to the ER, is it the same ER, the Aliante kind of off-site
Yes.
subset ER of Mountain View hospitals?
Yes, sir.
And it's a different facility than the Mountain View hospital. It's not the ER in Mountain View, correct?
Correct. There's a separate facility there. It's like a quick care, but it's an actual ER with emergency room doctors. They have a CAT scan machine. They have an MRI machine, I believe. They have full-blown ER staff there. I don't think they do surgeries, but they will do minor surgery type stuff, like set bones, cut things out. You know.
Did they do blood work at the ER?
They did blood work both ER visits. The first visit, they just said your liver enzymes are elevated. I don't recall what the numbers were. They were in the hundreds, I believe. The second time that they took my blood, it was a different response from the doctor when he returned. I'll never forget this moment for as long as I live. The guy came in and he looked at me and he goes, don't touch anything, just remain calm. You're in critical liver failure. We have an ambulance on the way. And to like go from sitting there puking to have somebody tell you like you're in critical liver, it's kind of takes a minute to process that and understand, and just kind of shocked, like, what's going on? And he went on to explain that my INRs were very high, and that if I were to be cut, that I could bleed and die. Those were his words, and then he went on to ask me a bunch of questions regarding how this could possibly be the case. Do you have hepatitis? Are you an intravenous drug user? Have you been drinking? Did you drink last night? Do you take drugs? Do you have any illnesses that we need to know about? Are you taking anything that we need to know about? Just really trying to find out, why am I in critical liver failure? Because it's not normal for them to see something like that, so they really wanted to get down to the bottom of what was wrong.
Shane, could you please pull up Exhibit 528-14? You see, this is a blood test from August 23rd, 2020, and it shows your AST at 3,416 and ALT at 1,176. Are these the type of numbers that you had at that time frame?
Yes, and I believe they even went well above this at some point in the hospital.
And
excuse me, the INR too, the 6.57 down there, that was the bigger one that they're worried about. That's the clotting agent that stops working when your AST and LRT are high and your liver shuts down.
And we see that's under the coagulation.
Yes,
And you've been here at trial almost every day, correct?
yes,
And you've seen the records and the testimony regarding the problem with coagulation, which is your blood's not clotting.
yes.
And the doctor expressed dire concern over a nick or something causing you to bleed out. Did the doctors express dire concern over this problem with your coagulation?
That was a very big concern of theirs. It was the major reason for hospitalization. It was one of the things they looked at in terms of determining my release from the hospital, yes. They were very concerned.
Did they tell you, is that the reason why they told you not to move?
Yes.
What were they concerned about?
That I could cut myself somehow, either with the IVs or bumping into something, and that any bleeding would not be able to be stopped. And that would be very dangerous.
Was it your understanding this was life-threatening?
Yes, sir. That question I asked him directly later. I didn't ask him at the ER, but I did ask him at the hospital when I got in there. I asked him, what's going on? Am I going to be okay? And they told me something that I won't forget ever. He said, they want to be nice and they don't want to scare you, but he goes, sir, liver means life. You are in critical liver failure. You're either going to get better or we're going to send you for a transplant. Does that make sense to you? Okay, and then I asked him, they just have transplants? And he just kind of gave me this look, and, that was kind of the end of it. Yeah, so the idea that this was life-threatening was very well broadcast to me.
What's going through your mind at this point?
I guess, it's a surreal experience. I don't know. Almost self-doubt, no, no, there's no way that I was just puking. I'm here and you're telling me that my liver's failing and I might die from this. It is a very shocking, terrifying feeling. And the big issue back to the COVID thing is that I couldn't be with my family. No one could be there. The thought that if this is actually going to kill me, I'm going to die in this hospital alone. And I won't be able to see my family. That was what was really going through my mind. That was the biggest thing.
Did you want to get home to them?
Yes, badly. I don't want to die in this hospital.
Shane, can you please pull up Exhibit 528, page 47? This is blood work from August 25th, 2020. And this, according to this lab work, your AST is at 896 and your ALT is at 4,934. So this is what you were referring to earlier when you mentioned that it had gone up.
Yes.
Did the doctors tell you that you could go home after this?
I don't know that if it was after this or at what period of time they told me I could go home. I had to argue with them quite a bit to allow me to go home. They were very fearful of my INR. As mentioned, that was the big release issue. I told them I don't know if this was a good thing, but I was kind of arguing with them saying, look, you've removed my IVs. All you're doing is taking my blood every 2 hours. I can't get any sleep. I can't get any food. I miss my family. You don't have a course of treatment other than death or transplant. And I want to go home. Can I please go home? And they told me that as soon as my INR got to a point where they would be not liable for me dying if I left, that they would be legally allowed to let me leave. And at some point that was done, whether that was this report or not, I don't know.
Do you recall being discharged from the hospital on August 26, 2020?
That sounds about right. Yes, it was at the end of August.
And how did you feel when you were discharged from the hospital?
Mentally or physically?
Let's start with physically.
Physically, I felt better than when I went in. I wasn't vomiting all the time, but I felt weird. Hollow would be a good word for it. Just not right. I'm still kind of off. I was very glad and happy to be out of the hospital. I got home, and I'm a very outdoors type person, and so I went outside. I just laid in the hammock, got some sun, and I had Emily make me a smoothie with some water. And I immediately, after drinking that, began to vomit again and feel weird and feel off. But I just thought it was food. I thought that my liver's failing. I just got out of the hospital. There might be sugar. Maybe it's the sugar from the blueberries. Maybe it's the whatever it is. And maybe I just can't eat food. And so after that first smoothie, I kind of made the decision I'm going to take a step back from food. I'm going to have like, what's the most basic thing? I just got down to like salad and water at that point. I think is what I landed on. But yeah, that was the first day home.
Shane, can you please pull up Exhibit 528, page 51? And in the bottom of the first paragraph, it says, it is possible the patient may have developed some kind of food poisoning or hepatitis A. Did the doctors tell you that they suspected some sort of potential food toxin as the cause of your sudden liver failure?
They didn't ever physically tell me what they thought it was. They did come in, multiple doctors, multiple times, and try and ask me over and over and over again, are you sure you don't have hepatitis? Are you sure you don't drink? Are you sure you didn't take any drugs? Are you sure? Come on, this doesn't just happen to people. And so they weren't able to really tell me why. They just kind of looked at it and said, we don't really know what is physically causing this as far as I could tell.
They implied it was something you ingested.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, and then after you got out of the hospital, did you adjust your diet at all, thinking it's something you ingested?
Yeah, and that goes back to the smoothie thing. These smoothies are what I'd have in the morning, just like protein, almond milk, bananas, blueberries, and water, and what's the other thing? Pineapples. And then after that vomit, after I got home having that, I'm like, okay, let me calm down for a little bit. Let me just have salads. And so we have a restaurant at work, and they have a good chicken Caesar salad there. And so I'd eat that every day for lunch. In the mornings, I would usually have like toast and water. And then I think I even had some oatmeal at some point. And then for dinner, I would have a chicken salad. And we would literally, for several months, to try and figure out what was wrong with me, I'd reduce my diet to water, real water, and chicken Caesar salad, a little bit of toast.
We know, thankfully, you did not die from this.
Correct.
But afterwards, did you continue to feel sick?
Yes. People at work, when I got better enough to go back to work, I wasn't vomiting all the time. I would still have different bouts of vomiting in the mornings, but it wasn't like that August day type of vomiting. And so people would ask me like, hey, are you doing better, Chris? You seem down today, or you seem a little off. And the way I would explain it was, I'm doing better until I'm not. And I couldn't tell them why I'm not. I don't know why. I'm just going through my days, everything's fine, and then I'm not fine. And I literally had no idea that it was related to what I would, that it had to do with every time I was drinking the water at that point in time. But you would just go like this, and it seemed to be, now I can correlate it back to when I was consuming.
Shane, can you please pull up Exhibit 528, page 55? And did you continue to search for answers for what was wrong with you?
Yes.
What are we looking at here?
Yeah, this is the Mayo Clinic from a month later. Because they're far away, they won't take you, to my knowledge, just straight off the boat. You've got to have like a reason to get there. You've got to be close, and they have a thing called an executive health program that I've heard about through people at work, and I knew that they did a really an intense workup. Like they run you through all the tests. It's 3 or 4 days. And I said, okay, I can't figure out what's wrong with me in Vegas. I've been to gastroenterologist, hepatologist, the hospital. They don't know. Let me go down here for all this diagnostic work and see what we can find out. I met by phone because it was still COVID protocol at that time with this doctor here, Dr. Balan. He looked at what had happened to me. We didn't know about real water. I didn't tell him I had been drinking real water. It wasn't part of the discussion. I had no idea. He just said, yeah, it looks like something bad happened to you. We'll get you in the program. And they scheduled my first visit down there.
Now, about a month or so after you're searching for answers at the Mayo Clinic, did Emily get sick?
Emily and Chris were sick at this, basically close to the same time. It was around the beginning of November when my wife started to get sick. We didn't know that she didn't have the same symptoms as me in regards to vomiting and as much diarrhea, really any diarrhea. She was much more of the brain fog, and the tracers, the double vision, the blurriness. She started off and she would just say, I don't feel right today. And what do you mean you don't feel right? She couldn't describe what she didn't feel right or what was wrong. And I said, you'll be okay. It's going to be fine. Don't worry. There's a lot of stuff going on. And then it got worse, and she kept complaining about it. I said, well, go to the doctor. If you feel like this, you can't see and you're seeing blurry vision, you need to go to the doctor. Like, let's take you to the ER at Aliante, because that's the closest thing. So I believe I drove her. She might have drove herself. I don't recall. To that first visit at ER at Aliante. They took her blood, I believe, and they said, we don't know what's wrong. Maybe you're anemic. There's some weird stuff in here, but nothing's really conclusive. So there's a lot of stuff going on. Just go home, and if you feel worse, come back, and you should go follow up with your primary care physician. I do remember they gave her those orders because that's where I took her subsequently.
And what happened when you took her subsequently to her primary care physician?
It was a couple days later, maybe a week later, I'm not sure. It wasn't too far, but it wasn't immediate, just because that's how doctors are. So she had an appointment, either stayed home from work or it was after work, one of the two. And I put Chris in the back of my truck and I drove her to Dr. Capobianco's office to get blood work. And while she's in the doctor's office getting blood work, little Chris sitting in his chair just starts puking. He's puking all over himself. And if we can get to him, the day before I noticed something off, but he didn't look sick. And speaking about autism a little bit, I don't know how much you guys know about autism, but my son can't communicate. He can't talk. And this is the hardest part. So sorry. When a normal kid's sick, or it's just normal kid, you say, hey, how are you doing? What do you want to do today? And they talk to you. My son can't talk to me. There's like an empathetic connection. My wife got this shirt that says, connection is communication. It's got two heads put together. It's an autism shirt. And that's like the best I can explain it, is that you can feel, but you can't speak. So the days before, there was a first snow, and we took him out to the snow to play, and he was just off. He just didn't play. And then he wasn't puking, he wasn't sick. And then he started vomiting in the back of the truck while we were there.
And was this near the time of baby Chris's autism diagnosis?
Yes. He was around June of that year, we suspected that there was something wrong with him. He started off a very normal kid, and he just never talked. He had some words, but he wouldn't talk like his sister. He didn't develop as fast as his sister. And then there started to be some repetitive behaviors, and someone in the family said, have you ever thought about autism? I said, no, autism, what's that? And we went and looked it up, and you look up the symptoms. Yes, oh no. And so this is about June of that year. We signed up for early intervention services with a therapy management group to try and work through whatever developmental issues he may have had. They won't diagnose a child with autism until they're close to their third birthday, just for developmental reasons. And on November 2nd of this year, we had the official video visit, because it was COVID, so we couldn't see a doctor, with Dr. I forget his name, but he gave the official autism diagnosis, I believe on November 2nd.
So after baby Chris gets sick, at what point do you decide to take him to the ER?
I don't remember the amount of days, it was either 1 or 2 days. Based on, like, we still don't know what I had. I don't know that what I had is what she had. We don't know anything. We just have a kid, puked once, okay. And the puking got worse, and we just gave him this bottle with real water, and more puking and more water and more puking in probably 2 days, maybe 3 days. I'd have to go back and look at the numbers, but I walked into the room and he looked like I looked when she walked into the room on me. And that's what did it, is there's a different look, and some of the children that we've seen in these photos, I think there's a photo of Chris, they don't have any energy to them. They're just limp, and I called them, it looked like you could pour them out of a cup of water. It's the term that I used to the doctor. He was just limp. And that was very, very concerning. So I immediately took him to the ER at Odou.
And what did they tell you at the ER at Odou?
The first thing they did was they took blood from him. They did a blood draw from him. The doctor came back into the room, and the first thing he said was, "Your son is in critical liver failure. We have an ambulance on the way. Relax." Yeah, that's what they said.
Where did they want to send him?
They were going to send him, I believe, to Summerlin Children's Hospital, which was where they had sent, I think, the other kids who had the issue. I think.
Shane, could we pull up Exhibit 534, page 4? This is lab test for November 15th, 2020. It's an AST of 3,713, ALT of 544 for baby Chris. Is this the date that you took him to the Aliante emergency room?
11:15 looks like 11:15 is our wedding anniversary, we know that. Something tells me this was in primary children's based on the date, but I could be wrong, I don't know.
Let me show you another record that may help. So, Shane, if you could pull up 534-15. So at the Aliante emergency room, they said he's in critical liver failure and they sent him to Summerlin Hospital, correct?
Yes,
And this is a consent to transfer form. Is that your signature at the bottom?
yes.
Okay. And the date of this is November 15th, 2021. I mean, 2020.
Oh,
Is that
yes. It all happened in the same day. I guess it happened fast. Yeah, we made it all the way to Utah on the 15th. So yes, this is that morning. So I guess my guess is this is, you know what day of the week this is? 15th.
I don't.
No problem.
But
But yeah, this is from the Mountain View Hospital.
not a happy anniversary, I think.
Yeah, a little rough.
So if you look under medical benefits in the middle, Shane, it says they're transferring him to the pediatric ICU.
Yes,
Is that what you recall, that Mountain View did not have a pediatric ICU and they wanted to send him somewhere where there was an intensive care unit?
yes,
And under medical risks next to that, you're filling this out, and one of the risks they tell you is worsening of the condition or death if you stay at Mountain View without heightened care.
yes.
So do they send you via ambulance to Summerlin?
Yes, he rode in my lap. I rode in the back of the ambulance with him.
What happens when you get to Summerlin Hospital that day?
I called my wife when they told us that we were going to go to the hospital. She called her mom to come in and give her a ride because she was too sick to drive and to help watch the other kids. I rode in the ambulance to the hospital, and when we got in there were some nurses, and the one thing I remember them saying is, "We got another one." You'll never forget that statement. "We got another one." And I'm just, what do you mean you got another one? I thought this was rare. Kids don't have liver failure. I had liver failure. You got another one? What do you mean? Sorry, can't talk about it. Patient confidentiality. We've got a lot of kids with liver failure. We're sending them up to children's primary in Utah. We got a jet coming. Hold on tight. In a couple hours, you'll be in Utah. Like, oh, okay. I have very bad motion sickness, so my wife was on the way. She's still sick at this point, but she knows that her son is now in the hospital, so she's coming no matter what. When she gets there, she's pretty panicked. When we get her into the ICU, they won't let us both be in the ICU because of COVID. And so we tried to, talk to him about the autism thing, and at that particular hospital, they didn't really care much, and I had to go home and pack anyway. So I said, okay, I'll leave, no problem. We're not doing anything here, right? No, we're not doing anything. We're just putting them on the plane. So okay, and I left, went home to pack, to get a plane ticket, to get a hotel, get some clothes. She got on the jet and went to Primary Children's in Utah. I flew up that night.
Was it your understanding that Chris's condition was critical?
Yes,
Was it your understanding that his life was in danger?
yes.
Where did you stay in Utah when he was at Primary Children's Hospital or PCH?
The first night I stayed at, it was like just a regular hotel, like a Best Western or I don't remember the name, some chain hotel nearby. First night, the second day I came in there, my wife begged me, she said, you can't leave me here alone. I can't do this alone. They're here every 30 minutes. You can't leave me. So I canceled the hotel. And I gotta say, the ladies at Primary Children's were angels, and they understood, and they kind of looked the other way with the rules, that two-person thing. So at least most of them did. There were a couple that did kick me out at points, but a couple of the nurses and that doctor that was working with the kids understood, and I slept on the couch in the hospital for a week.
And Emily stayed in the hospital with little
She never
Chris?
left the hospital bed. She got out once to go to the Ronald McDonald House to take a shower, and I got her out of the bed once. So this is another COVID. Because she was sick and we didn't know what she had, we didn't want her to leave the hospital because they make you go through this whole thing to come back in and get a little tag, the date on it, color code. So I would go do that because I wasn't sick like them. And so when we got in the hospital, the one thing I realized is getting in the hospital and getting fluids in, both me and my son, made us feel better. She's laying in the hospital bed. She feels like she's still dying. We can't tell the doctor she's sick because they'll think she'll have COVID and rip her away from her baby, so she has to hold it together and pretend like she's not sick. I called an Uber, got her out of the hotel, put her in an Uber to one of these mobile IV places for just what they call a banana bag. It's a standard IV they give somebody who's dehydrated. I gave her my pass that I got to come in that morning so she could get past the medical screening, and so she got that and came back, but those were the only 2 times that she physically left that child's hospital bed.
Shane, can you please pull up Exhibit 534, page 24? This is a note that we've seen before in the middle. It says, it is also curious that this presentation of acute liver failure, referring to little Chris, of unknown etiology has occurred multiple times among 3 different patients presenting to the same view from a very similar geographic area in Nevada over the course of the past 2 weeks. At the time, were you aware that there had been other child cases like this?
Since arriving at the ER at the Summerlin Children's Hospital, when they said, we got another one, that's when I learned there were more than one child with liver failure. And when I arrived at Primary Children's, this doctor explained to us that there was, what he called, I believe, an epidemiological cluster of acute liver failure of unknown etiology coming from the local geographic region, and he was going to look into it and probably report it to the Southern Nevada Health District. Yes.
And what are you thinking about that when he tells you that?
I know it's something in our house. That I know. When they told me he had liver failure, that was the second piece of the puzzle kind of coming together. Okay, it's got to be something that me and him both have access to, that we both touch. At this time, I don't know what it is. My diet at that point had been limited back, like I said, water and salad for the most part, but prior, we did have some foods in common. Maybe we ate some steaks together, maybe we had fries together, mac and cheese together, stuff like that. So I'm just trying to think of what, he's 2, right? Like what do me and this 2-year-old have in common in our house that could be doing this to us? And so I'm thinking about all the foods, spoiled foods, bad foods. I literally didn't even think of the water while I was in the hospital, but I was thinking like some sort of food, some sort of a food stuff could possibly be what it was.
At PCH, did the doctors consider doing a liver biopsy on baby Chris?
They very much wanted to do a liver biopsy on baby Chris. And because of his autism is the main reason why we didn't do that. I asked him, I said, okay, explain to me a liver biopsy. He said, okay, we're gonna give him ketamine so that he's tranquilized, but he'll be there, he'll be able to see you, and he'll be very still, and then we'll use a ultrasonic to find the liver, and we'll take a piece of the liver, and then we'll send it off to the slides. And my concern, as I mentioned before, without being able to communicate with my son, number one, you can't explain to him, hey, they're gonna give you ketamine and take a piece of your liver out. And I didn't want to be in the trust that we had, like the communication, to be able to forcibly hold him down, ketamine him, and take his liver out. I wasn't willing to do that. And so I asked him, was there any treatment plan that you would gain from this? They said, we'll understand the level of injury. And I said, I'm not willing to do this for that reason. I'm sorry. And I said, no.
Shane, can you pull up Exhibit 534, page 34? Under medical decision-making, this refers to the discussion of a possible liver biopsy and says that the family prefers to wait until we have more information tomorrow, and I certainly think it's reasonable to wait the antibody results, correct?
Yes.
Baby Chris was, at some point, baby Chris, strike. At PCH, is baby Chris drinking real water?
No.
Did his liver enzyme tests start to improve?
2 or 3 days after being in the hospital, I believe his liver test started to normalize.
He avoided a liver transplant, correct?
He did, yes.
And he was eventually able to, we saw a note with Dr. Guthrie yesterday about a reference to the psychological toll that the hospitalization is taking on little Chris and you and Emily.
Yes.
Were you and Emily concerned about the psychological toll at PCH?
Yes, very much so. There's a lot of things psychologically that are devastating about the situation to be concerned about. The most concerning thing to me was the physical response that Chris was having to being in the hospital with autism. And again, you can't explain to him why there's things in his arm, so the entire stay, he doesn't stop. He's trying to pull it out. It doesn't stop. He doesn't get it. And they had to bandage him up, they had to tie him down. He's screaming, the screams from this child. They come in every 30 minutes for 6 days, taking this kid's blood. And his veins are collapsing. They're bringing in vein specialists. They're doing it off his feet. They're trying to bring toys in. He can't eat. The vomiting turned him off from food to where that became the issue in the hospital. Back to the INR and the sugars and the issues. In order for them to let little Chris out once he was off the IV, he had to eat and his sugars had to be up. He couldn't process, his liver was broke down, so his sugars were low, and that was their big concern, like my INRs, and so we tried to get him to eat. And previously to going in, as you saw in some of the photos, he would eat some foods. He would eat mac and cheese, spaghetti and waffles, and popsicles were his favorite. Spaghetti was what he was puking primarily when we went to the hospital. We first food tried to bring in some waffles, right? Let's get him some waffles from the EDR, the little food thing. Won't eat them. Okay, let's try this. Try spaghetti. Try popsicles. I'm going to Target and buying everything that he normally would eat. We can't get the kid to eat, and his sugar's going down. And they're saying, look, if you can't get the kid to eat, we're going to hook him back up, and you guys aren't going anywhere. And so I think we got Cheetos out of the vending machine, and we got a bottle of water with mint and honey in it. And he ate the Cheetos, he did because they're crunchy and they're all the same color. And we got him eating Cheetos and we got him drinking the bottle of water. And that was a couple days of that. And we were able to get his sugar to the point where, they were comfortable with letting him go.
We were able to take him home on November 19th.
That sounds correct, yeah. The end of the week, the Friday. I didn't want to spend the weekend again in the hospital, so I was desperately trying to get them into a position to allow us to be discharged on Friday so that we could fly home.
How was baby Chris when you returned to Las Vegas?
We got to the car, there was something, and back to him being autistic, he was very excited to be back in town, but I think when we got somewhere and he was like, what do you mean we're not home yet? You know what I mean? The plane ride, I forgot about that. The COVID on the plane ride, him being autistic, they wanted him to wear a mask at 2, after he just got to the hospital, and so there was a big scream, a lot of issues dealing with the flight to get him home and the COVID. He was excited to be home. And you could tell he was kind of shocked when we got back to the airport. Like, why am I not home yet? But then when he got home, he was, he felt happy to be home. You could tell.
What happened after you returned home? Did you start throwing up food?
Yes.
Tell the jury about that.
Yeah, I was telling my wife, I was like, it's got to be something in the house. It's got to be something we're eating. And then I was just thinking, throw the milk away, throw the mayonnaise away, throw the ketchup away, just throw the eggs away, throw anything that could spoil away. And then I said, well, I'm thinking in my head, what do we both have in common? I didn't think it was the water, but I said, we both drink the water, cancel the water, let's get it out, let's be done with this. And we started getting everything that we had in common in forms of ingestion out of the house.
After you canceled the real water, did you have a point where you spoke to the delivery driver about it?
My wife did, actually. So I told her to cancel. We had probably 12 or 15 jugs at the house. The delivery driver came to the house. He asked her, hey, you guys are one of our best customers. Why are you canceling? She can speak to exactly what he said. What she told me was that he said, she told him, my husband and my son had liver failure. We're getting rid of everything in the house, no harm against you guys, whatever. We're not sure what it is, so we're canceling everything. And he made the comment to her.
Objection, hearsay.
It's not offered for the truth of the matter asserted, it's for the effect of the actions, the point of the conversation, how it was actually.
So you could ask the follow-up question that was about.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. And in your understanding, the discussion with the comment from the real water delivery person was that another person that he delivered to also canceled for being sick. Correct?
Yes, that's my understanding.
And at this time, were you also in contact with officials from the Southern Nevada Health District?
At the exact time, no. Later on, the Southern Nevada Health District did reach out to us during their investigation. I guess that was the first time when I personally made the connection and said, it has to be the water.
Sure.
Okay, Mr. Pepper, you can proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Wren, after the real water delivery driver made the comment to your wife, were you contacted by investigators from the Southern Nevada Health District related to the unusual cluster of children with acute liver failure at Primary Children's Hospital?
Yes, I was. I was contacted by phone. I was at work, and I believe it was sometime after January.
And did you tell, what kind of questions did the Southern Nevada Health District representative ask you?
They're doing the investigation as laid out on the slides earlier, where they're trying to find out, did you travel anywhere? Did you, were you bitten by a dog? Were you bitten by any insects? Did you go swimming in any ponds or lakes? All the general questions that would I guess, attribute to different themes, and he was asking a lot of different questions to us, yes. And then on that phone call, I mentioned to her that she should ask the people that got sick if they were home delivery customers of real water, and I asked her, I provided them information based on the fact that we had both got sick, we were both customers, and since the driver mentioned that, it seemed like there would be some, there possibly could be a connection there, yes.
How is little Chris doing today?
Could you be more specific?
How is his condition, not related to his illness?
Yeah, it's as far as we know, other than the food thing, that's the big thing that's still there. Regarding, what do you say? He's happy, I can't ask him how do you remember this, how you doing, how do you feel? I don't have that luxury, unfortunately, so I assume he's doing okay. We have therapy for him, we take him, regular health checkups, and as far as I know, he seems like a good kid.
You've seen you were here yesterday for Dr. Datnow, correct?
Yes.
And you heard Dr. Datnow's testimony and his review of Severin's liver biopsies and the permanent injury, did you not?
Yes.
And does that, do you have fears about the permanent injuries that Chris may have suffered to his liver?
I have fears about the permanent injuries that all of us may have suffered, little Chris included, myself, my wife, anybody who had been consuming that toxin for that long, yes.
And you have spoken to Dr. Sands?
Yes.
And do you understand the services and recommendations that Dr. Sands has made?
Generally, yes. I'm not sure the details on how that'll relate to Chris having autism or how that could be modified or whatnot, but generally, yes.
Are you committed to following up with the medical monitoring and the psychological services and the other services that have been recommended by the plaintiff's experts in this case?
I'd be willing to follow up on these services that are going to provide help with whatever psychological or physical issues that he has. As mentioned, with autism, it's very difficult. So, food therapy, I think, is going to be a very big part of his therapies. Along with my wife, she still has some continued issues that she's still dealing with. So, in terms of specifically how, I'm not sure. It's still we're still learning a lot, including in this trial. But yes, continuing to treat whatever happened to us, yes.
What about for yourself, those types of services? Are you committed to following up with those?
I still go to Mayo every year to just make sure everything's good, look up the blood work and check and make sure that nothing is progressing. I haven't specifically provided them with the details that I learned in this case, and so that will be new information that we're going to be looking into this year. But from a general liver enzyme test report, yes, I have been and continue to do so, yes.
And you filed your complaint in this case on March 16, 2021. Does that sound?
Yes.
Thank you, Chris. Those are all the questions I have. Thanks. Anything else?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Kid. Good afternoon, Joel. You represent Wren. How are you doing?
All right.
You ready to proceed?
Yes.
Mr. Wren, I want to thank you for sharing with the jury what you and your wife and little Chris went through. And I'm very sorry that you had to go through those things. It sounds like you've learned a lot in this trial, listening and hearing some of the evidence that has been put forward. Is that accurate?
Yes.
And it sounds like perhaps one of the things that you learned in this trial was that prior to this trial, the doctor had ever told you conclusively that you were made sick by real water. Is that true?
Prior to this trial, I never discussed real water with the doctor, correct?
And no doctor ever said, hey, Chris, the reason why you got sick was from real water.
They would have no reason to say that, so no, they have not.
Okay. And it sounds like even before talking to Southern Nevada Health District, the same was true of how real water made Emily sick and how real water made little Chris sick.
again, no one knew that real water was the case, and we didn't tell the doctors that we were drinking real water, so no doctor would have told us that real water would have been the cause of our illness. Yes, that's correct.
And other than talking to the driver, you didn't reach out to Real Water and say, your product has made us sick, until the lawsuit.
We canceled prior to knowing that it was the water making us sick. After the driver came to pick up the bottles and told us that other customers had been sick with liver injury, me understanding statistics and the amount of liver injury made the assumption at that point, or made the connection mentally, that both my wife, my son, myself, and the other customers all were real water drinkers, and that was probably the cause of our injury.
Right. But you didn't then reach out to Real Water and say, hey.
Other than canceling, no, and telling them that we got sick and were canceling, no.
Telling the driver that you got sick.
Well, we told the lady on the phone we canceled that we're canceling, and we got sick, yes.
And
We didn't know that it was their water. We didn't say, your water made us sick. We said, we got sick and we're canceling.
understandable. Wanted to go through with you just very briefly, because I had the opportunity to look at the days of the week when Chris got sick.
Mhm.
It looks like November 15th, 2020 was a Sunday. Does that sound about right?
Yes.
And that Sunday, it sounds like you went to the emergency room, then they sent you to Summerlin, and then they sent little Chris to Salt Lake City on that Sunday. It was a very full day.
Yes.
And it seems like from that Sunday until Thursday the 19th is when little Chris was in the hospital. Does that sound right to you?
I believe we were discharged on Friday.
You think you got out on Friday?
I think so. That's what I recall, but I don't have the records.
That's okay, and it's not a huge deal. The fact sheet says that you got out on November 19th. Do you think it might have been the 20th? The 19th was a Thursday? Do you think it was a Friday? It doesn't.
Maybe Friday was the first day I was home, and that's why it's in my head. It was that Friday, maybe that's it.
And that's a reason to remember.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Very glad that you got home and that worked out. So up and through today, the therapy that Chris has had has been related to autism and related to food, it sounds like.
For the most part, therapies, yes. The food therapy related to, the not eating of the food, and the EVA related to the autism. And those are the majority of the therapies. Also speech therapy and the spell program he's in to try and improve communication.
And how's that going?
It's going good.
Good, glad to hear it. Good. So, what you described is a pretty awful experience. You haven't yourself gone for any kind of therapy or counseling?
Mental therapy or counseling? Not as of yet, no.
You plan to do that?
Now that, speaking to the experts and hearing what's going through, if we get through all this, that's a possibility. I've been mostly concerned with the health aspect of it, to be quite honest with you. And little Chris's mental part of it.
Yeah, understandable, and I'm not trying to nitpick. Just to kind of put a frame of reference, you gave a deposition in this case in February of this year, you know that. At the time of the deposition, you were unsure if you were going to do therapy. Now you think you are sure, is that fair?
I've learned a lot in this case.
Yeah, understandable. And so, going forward, you think you're going to possibly get some help?
I think the family needs help, yeah, and I'm sure I'll be involved.
Okay, appreciate that. Last question, I want to make sure that we have the numbers right. Looks like your hospitalization, and I'm using that very generically, your treatment for your injuries from real water, $78,991. Does that sound about right?
I don't know, honestly, I don't have all the bills in front of me. I know Chris's flight was over near 100, I don't know what mine are.
Okay, Chris's was $215,354.80.
Sounds reasonable.
Okay, Emily's $32,246.65.
Based on her stay, it sounds reasonable, yes.
Again, Ms. Wren, thank you again for sharing with us today.
Thank you.
Any reader?
No, Your Honor.
Any questions from any group? Thank you. Okay, Mr. Mr. Wren, Big Chris.
Yes.
Couple of questions from one of our jurors. Does Dad, you, Chris Wren, have any symptoms recently?
So again, I'm not a doctor and I don't know if these are still related, but I do still have similar GI problems that persist. I don't want to say I feel weird all the time, but definitely you can tell, like, so the salad and water thing I did that for 6 months, probably into 2021. And then slowly started introducing new foods, and then about a year and a half later introduced like normal foods. And now I will have a beer or two, but it feels different. I can tell that just something about you is different. It just feels different. And I definitely still have some weird GI stuff going on, but other than that.
So some follow-up questions. Random nausea?
Yes.
Food/dairy sensitivity?
I don't eat much dairy. I eat cheese. I eat pizza for lunch and cheese sticks, so I don't get sick from that. But if I drink a lot of milk, yeah, I will get acid reflux from a lot of milk.
Any pain?
Pain. So it's weird that you say that, because one of the things that all these, a lot of the people that had provided complaints talked about this weird sour burning in your stomach. And all the years leading up to the big disease, it's like right here. And yes, you still every once in a while will, depending on what you eat, that is a sensitive area. I don't know if there's something hurt there or what, but yeah, it does happen. Yes.
Have GERD?
I do not have GERD currently, no.
Any follow-up questions from plaintiffs?
No, Your Honor.
Any follow-up questions from plaintiffs?
Yes, Your Honor. Do you currently have any scheduled appointments or plans to make future appointments with the gastroenterologist?
The one down in Mayo, they do run everything through a gastroenterologist. And just on that note, they did diagnose me. They mentioned fatty liver the last time I was down at Mayo, so that is one thing they do look at, yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions from jurors? Okay. Thank you, sir.
No problem.
Just
Thank
be
you.
careful on your words.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Council can come approach. Ready to continue?
Yeah, Your Honor. And for the record, I'm Brianna.
You might want to repeat your name, I'm not sure they heard you.
Brianna Switzler for the record, thank you. And plaintiffs are going to call Emily Wren.
Just wait and see.
Can I get this thing?
Remain standing, raise your right hand, face forward, and be sworn in, please.
You do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Please be seated. State and spell your first and last name for the record.
Emily Wren, EMELYWREN.
So I know we've just heard a lot about Chris, about Big Chris, Little Chris, and yourself. So I'm not going to repeat a lot of what we've already kind of gone through. But just a little bit, tell me a little bit about yourself and introduce yourself to the jury.
Hello, my name is Emily Wren. I was born and raised here. Oh, Chris explained all that.
Can you just,
Yes.
right?
Now I'm currently a stay-at-home mom. I stay home with my little one, Chris. You can't hear me still? Okay. I stay home with, can you hear me now? Is that better? Sorry. I stay home with Chris, and my daughter goes to school, so I'm a full-time stay-at-home mom.
And I know you just mentioned that you're a full-time stay-at-home mom, but what are some of the things that you like to do when you've got some free time?
The one thing that I do is in the morning, I get up at 5 and I go to Pilates. I go 4 days a week. That's like my mental, keeps me, sane. And I can take on the day because it's a long day with my little guy. It's 24/7 until he goes to bed. I do have some help, but most of the time I'm with him all the time. He's always by my side. He's like my shadow. I call him my little shadow.
So we heard a little bit from Chris, and he mentioned that you were the first one to kind of get introduced into real water. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
I love to work out. I'm very health conscious. I eat healthy. I went to yoga and I saw all the yogis drinking the water, and I went and purchased it. I can't remember where, if it was Whole Foods or a gas station. And I started drinking it, and claimed it was good water. I felt good when I drank it at the time. Yeah.
And so you drank it, Chris drank it, and little Chris drank it?
Yes.
And I know we talked about the mac and cheese earlier. Shane, can you throw up 544, page 120?
What page?
Page 1, please. 544, 1. So you made his mac and cheese with the water, is that right?
Yes.
Let's do 549, Shane. And so you would boil the water, you boil the water and then make the mac and cheese out of that?
Yes.
And this was a staple in your household?
Yes. And spaghetti, teas. Well, he didn't drink tea, but tea for myself.
And so we heard a little bit, flashing forward to August of 2020. Chris testified about how he was feeling everything and sitting on the couch and you walking in. Can you tell me a little bit about what prompted you to finally come to the emergency room?
He looked like that. He was just laying there. My husband's full of life. Yes. Just to see him laying there like that, hell, he almost looked green. And so I kind of got stern with him. I'm like, you have to go. Because men are stubborn. It's hard for me to tell what to do. But yeah, he ended up taking himself at the time because I was with the children.
And so when he ended up going to the hospital, was he able to talk to you about his diagnosis of acute liver failure?
His phone died and it was COVID, so I didn't really get to speak much to him.
When you finally learned that he was diagnosed with acute liver failure, what was going through your mind?
The worst thing ever. I mean, he's my rock. I've been with him since 3rd grade. I got known him since 3rd grade. So it's... Sorry.
So it was difficult to hear.
Yes.
And I know he talked about life being liver, and you talked about that as well. What were you afraid of in that moment?
It's hard to explain when you hear that. You just think the worst. I automatically just jump to the worst. But then I have to tell myself, I have to think positive.
When Big Chris was finally released from the hospital, did you notice anything different about him when he came home?
Yeah, he wasn't the same. He just kind of just went outside and just sat in a lawn chair and sat in the chair because, they didn't do either. I'm trying to... Liver is like he's just going to live or he's not. So he was just like laying there in shock, and it was scary. I didn't even know what to do.
And there became a time when you started not feeling well as well.
Yes.
How were you feeling?
At the time, I felt like I was drugged, like dizzy, headache, nauseous. Where you put your hand out and it goes in slow motion. And I had to walk to hold on to stuff, like to walk to the bedroom. I remember laying down a lot and sleeping a lot. And then at that point, I called my mom because I'm like, Mom, I'm not even taking care of the kids at this point. I'm just laying here. I don't know what's wrong. I feel like something's off. I just feel nauseous. I don't feel like myself.
And you ended up going to the ER?
Yes. My husband said, you need to go to the ER, so I went to the ER. I think my mom drove me at the time, and then he went to work, and then she stayed with the kids. I mean, she had the kids, and then she dropped me off.
And ultimately, they've released you. Is that correct?
Yes, they didn't know what it was. It was during COVID, and they just said, we don't know, something's going on, something's off, maybe you're anemic. So they gave me a prescription for pills and said, take these and follow up with your doctor.
And,
So, I'm sorry, no, you're good.
and we heard at the same time that little Chris started not feeling well at this time.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about that?
I thought he was just like in tune with me. I thought he was like, oh, he could tell I was sick because we're always together. So I was like, we're vibing off each other. And so we just kind of laid there, both of us, just, we both kind of looked like death, like just, and I'm not that type of person. I'm a go-getter, like I'm running around the house doing stuff, playing with the kids, trying to, keep myself busy.
Shane, can you pull up 558, page 1, please? This is kind of what you're just talking about.
Yeah.
And so you and Chris didn't have any energy.
No.
And Shane, can you pull up 560, page 1? And this is little Chris here, right? Do you remember about when this was taken?
Yeah, just before he went to the hospital.
And so this is, his illnesses are kind of what prompted you to go to the hospital?
Just like his father, same, just like life was, he just laying there.
And we heard a little bit from Chris about going from Aliante ER to Summerlin, and you met them there at Summerlin.
My mom drove me there because I wasn't capable of driving. I was still dizzy and nauseous, and I didn't even have time to go pick up my anemic pills from CVS.
And you were the one who ultimately ended up going on the flight, was that correct?
Yes.
And Shane, can you go ahead and pull up 534, page 22, please? So similar with the other parents, there was the transfer consent form. At the very bottom there, is that your signature?
Yes.
And so do you remember filling this out? And if we look a little bit up in the medical risk box on the left-hand side, right-hand side over there. And the checked box is worsening or condition could result in, at least staying here could result in worsening condition or death. Sorry, it's a little small for me. Was that your understanding that if you stayed there at Summerlin, that was what would happen to Lucas?
Yes.
And filling out this and having to sign this form, what were you thinking at that time?
The worst thing, first my husband, and then my baby, and then I was sick, but they didn't know what it was. They were saying I was anemic. I mean, you can't explain it. It's,
And how was baby Chris through all of this?
it's been a struggle every day. It's hard because he doesn't communicate, but he does have his device, and we're working on that. I work with him every day. We're working on new things. It's just, I'm sorry.
And so thinking about when we're at primary children, so he was finally diagnosed with acute liver failure at primary, was that correct?
Yes.
And were you able to be with Chris during the hospital stay?
I was there every minute. I only left once. They asked me to leave because I would not leave his hospital bed. I mean, it was a blessing in disguise that I was not, I was sick also, because I was able to lay there and hold him down. And he didn't want me to leave his side, and I didn't plan on leaving his side. They had to pull me and like, you need to go take a shower. You've been here for 3 days in this bed. I was like rotting in the bed with my child.
And so at the same time, Chris wasn't feeling well, you still hadn't recovered yet.
No.
And while Chris was in the hospital, was he still drinking rail water?
Not in the hospital.
And so eventually did he start to improve a little bit?
Yes, because he had IVs, but it was hard because every 30 minutes they were pricking him, so there was no rest for either of us. It was probably the scariest moment of my life. To have your child scream like that and you don't know what's wrong, and you keep coming back and forth, and you're begging the nurses, like, give him an hour, let him, and his veins were collapsing. They had to go through his toes. They brought a specialist in. It was the darkest time of my life. It was COVID. I just found out my child had autism. I was in denial to hear that there's already something wrong with your child, that we have special needs. And then on top of it, your husband has liver failure, your baby, you're laying there lethargic.
And eventually baby Chris was discharged from the hospital, correct, on November 19th?
Yes,
And how did you guys get back to Las Vegas?
we got a flight back.
And
That was not easy. That was hard. It was hard to convince the doctors. They wanted the, thank goodness my husband went through the same thing. And we had the other children that had the biopsy. Like, I'm thankful that they were able to do that because then they were able to let my little guy go home so that he didn't have to go through that.
And while he was in the hospital, I know Chris mentioned it briefly, there was a difficulty to get him to eat. Can you tell the jury a little bit about that?
That's the hardest. I mean, already autistic children are very particular on what they eat, textures, food, smell, taste, all the senses. It's very heightened compared to ours. So he was my best eater. My boy's big when he was 2. I mean, he was using words. He could say da, ma. For grandma, abuelita in Spanish, he would say da, tita. Like, he was using 10 words. And he was holding his utensils and he was eating. He ate. He would have steak, potatoes, I mean, pasta. My boy ate. We eat. We come from a family that eats. So it's hard not to have him eat. Like, till this day, he's on 5 foods. And I still have him on a bottle twice a day with protein and nutrients just to make sure he's getting proper nutrients.
And so we heard at some point from Chris that you guys ended up throwing out all your food that was in your house.
Yes, he took everything out. Everything. I was like, what is going on? But I just said, please leave. He's my husband. I support him. So I said, okay.
And we heard a little bit that you ended up calling and canceling for real water.
I did.
And at that time, what did you tell the real water people about?
I just said, we're canceling not because of any reason. It's just because our whole family got sick. I said, I'm sick. My husband had liver failure. My baby had liver failure. We're throwing everything out. It's not just you guys. We just don't know. It's the unknown. We're scared. So we're just going to go cold turkey and start fresh.
And that's when he told you something about others?
Yeah, he just mentioned, oh man, you guys are my best customers. He's like, I had another incident with a lady in Henderson that had liver failure also. And I was just like, wow, okay. And then that's when I told my husband, and then he put it all together, and here we are today.
And I know we talked about it a little bit, but have you noticed any changes in baby Chris since the hospitalization?
Absolutely. I mean, even myself, it hasn't been the same. You know, just bringing him back and starting over, because just learning about, finding out about autism, and then bringing him back home and trying to get him to eat. And he's not holding his utensils. He's like, he regressed, he went back, you know, so.
And when Chris gets sick now, what goes through your mind?
The scariest thing ever. I mean, when he gags, I freak out, because that's what started it, the gagging, the vomiting. Even till this day, he gets scared when he gags, he freaks out. And it's hard to communicate with him. I mean, we're working on emotions right now. We have a book, like when he's happy, happy, when he's sad, sad, you know, scared. It's all the things that we take for granted. I have to work a little bit harder with him.
And to the extent, and you were here with Dr. Dana's testimony, correct?
Yes.
And are you aware of the potential permanent injuries that the children might have suffered?
Yes, now seeing all this information that they put up,
And that's concerning to you?
100%.
And to the extent that the experts recommend monitoring and various services, are you committed
Absolutely.
for not only yourself, but for baby?
Yes.
And I know this hasn't been easy,
No.
so I'm not gonna take any more of your time.
Thank you.
Any cross?
Good afternoon, Jim. How are you?
Get in there.
You okay? Can we proceed?
We can proceed.
The good news is I only have like 2 questions.
Perfect.
Perfect. Have you done anything for yourself? Have you personally sought any counseling for yourself?
Not counseling, but I've gone to doctors, and I'm working on that now. I actually have another doctor appointment. It's supposed to be tomorrow, but I moved it to Monday, so I'm trying to figure out what's going on.
And thank you for sharing with the jury what you went through. I'm very sorry that you had to go through this thing.
Did you read that?
No, Your Honor.
Any questions from any jurors? Thank you. Council can come approach. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna break for the day. Tomorrow come back at 11, so 11 a.m. tomorrow. During this recess, you're admonished not to talk or converse amongst yourselves or with anyone else on any subject connected with this trial. Do not read, watch, or listen to any report of or commentary on the trial or any person connected with this trial by any medium of information, including without limitation to social media, text, newspapers, television, internet, radio. Do not visit the scene of any events mentioned during the trial. Do not undertake any investigation. Do not do any post communications on a social networking site. Do not do any independent research, including internet searches. Do not form or express any opinion on any subject connected with the trial until the case file is submitted to you. See you tomorrow at 11 a.m.
Please rise for the jury.
We have,
I might have wrote.
we have 549, which I believe was admitted under Mr. Pepperman. 558 was stipulated to prior to her testimony.
It is, Your Honor.
Okay, so 558.
And then 560 was pre-admitted.
Okay.
Commissioner, did you admit did somebody admit 562? Or you want to do that? I don't show that we admitted 562, but I may have lost track. I have no objection if they want to admit 562 if it's not.
I was going to and then.
We skipped it.
Yeah, we'll still admit to, I know we're doing a medical subset for that with baby Chris, or the family rounds. Yeah, 562 was admitted to,
562.
60.
Oh, 562.
562.
Okay.
yeah, 562.
Okay. So that's amended. Okay. Anything else?
Judge, the big picture.
Sure.
We expect to call 23 witnesses and already done
No, hold on a
7.
second. Somebody's doing something close to a microphone. Go ahead.
Okay, Judge, we expect to call 23 witnesses in the plaintiff's case in chief. We've already done 17. That means we have 6 left. The 6 left will be Blaine Jones by video. I think that's about 10 minutes long. We have Mrs. Williams, which we're probably going to call tomorrow. Dr. Hudson, which we think is going to be on Friday. Mr. Destel, which we have lined up for Friday. Mrs. Carrier, which we think is going to go on Friday. And Dr. Sands is probably going to be tomorrow. And I've already talked to Mr. Odou. I told him I think we're probably going to get done, well, who knows, but we're thinking it's going to be sometime earlier mid-afternoon on Friday. If we do that, I told him I'd be fine with him starting his case in chief on Monday.
On Monday.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Your Honor, but personally, I need to attend to, so leaving Friday earlier than 5 o'clock.
Nobody's going to object to that, including me.
Thank you.
Okay, no, everything's going along.
Yeah, I remember if I said Steve Watkins, he's supposed to be here tomorrow.
Anything from the defense?
Friday, we are starting at 10 a.m.
Yeah.
Thank you. Nothing further from us.
All right, I'll see you.